Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Champ Center channel. Here today, we're gonna go ahead and check out a topic which I'm pretty fond of and I'm pretty interested in actually. And it's the new Switch skill that we've seen in Monster Hunter previews, Monster Hunter trailers that have come out so far. Now, I haven't seen many people actually talk about this, and I'm quite fascinated. I don't understand why, because to me this is quite exciting. Ever since it was released, I was excited about this, and I just want to talk to you guys about potential things that I'm only seeing, and I just want to share with you guys. So first things first, I talked with a friend of mine, and he brought up the idea that when he used to play Monster Hunter, he loved to play in the open world. He loved to go out, gather, just hunt whatever gets in his way, right? But he is also a light bowgun main. So for him, it was actually an issue having to manage his ammo and, going out on explorations that lasted 2 hours and such. You know, ammo is not quite something that's good for that because you got to manage it and all that. So now you have the option to just go on ahead, right on. So let's carry on. Now, the idea of having two of the same weapons, it's kind of funny to me. Like, you can have two great swords, just have one do one type of damage, one do the other type. It's all good, fun, and Capcom, I think, has already talked about this. You can do this. Also, something that's very exciting for me is the possibility of using two of my main weapons, which is the long sword and the insect glaive. Super exciting. Super excited for this. I get to, play longsword once I'm tired of doing all the counters and I just want to hop up in the air. I can do so, man. And if I want to just, after an EI slash, and after I fill up my red gauge, I just want to go ahead and hop up in the sky. I jump on my secret. Hopefully, I can jump off my secret and hop right into the air without having to touch the ground. That would be really cool. Hunting horn. Now, here's the thing with hunting horn. To me, it kind of seems meta, right? If you have the option to have a second weapon, let's say you're just a main greatsword, you don't really want to stray from that. Well, you can just have your hunting horn, buff yourself, and hop back on your secret and just whip out your main weapon. Pretty easy. And I think this is something that might be doable a lot of times. I can see a lot of speed runs with this taking effect. Carrying on, ranged monsters. You know how sometimes when I start playing the game, I used to use my great sword, and whenever I used to fight monsters, it was all good. I fought them, I hit them, and then when they went into rage mode, I had such a hard time because my weapon was so slow. Now I think we could do a bit of a switch run. Monster gets raged, or we got a bit of a fast monster. Just go ahead and switch mid-hunt. Go to something a bit faster, something that's not so punishing. Heck, maybe even go into a lance kind of a weapon, so you can be a bit more defensive. And just as I was saying here, you can go, for example, from going from a great sword and then going back to a dual blade or maybe a lance for a bit of a faster edge. Next up is range or not ranged weapons. Something that's probably going to happen. Some people are just going to have a ranged weapon in their arsenal as a secondary because just the option to have the freedom of a ranged weapon, I mean, it just sounds fantastic. Why wouldn't you take it? I think it's going to be very, very used in many people's arsenals. Just the possibility of doing this. It's great. I love it. Also having, for example, me thinking of the longsword being a weapon that has counters against weapons that don't have counters, Or now that we've seen with the trailers and the overviews, a lot of weapons might have what is like a perfect dodge or a perfect guard. And just switching between those mechanics might actually be fun. And at the end of the day, what you want to do with this game is have fun, you know? Carry on. Status effects. Man, am I excited for this. Because just think about it. You have one weapon that has just sleep, and then your other weapon is a great sword, and you just bonk them really hard when they sleep. Or maybe just paralysis them, and then switch to your main DPS weapon with your elements. And I have a picture of a charge blade here. Because charge blades have the possibility, for example, to have paralysis and impact files. So you could have a weapon that does status effects, KO damage, and then have your primary or secondary that does elemental damage. The potential there is immense, man. Just look in there some of the stats. I mean, you can see it for yourself. Sword and Shield, Capcom has it as a kind of like a support weapon. It's always been bullied to be that support weapon slash tutorial weapon, but having the possibility to switch this to this weapon. Maybe when a monster's getting too agitated and you don't really know what to do, you can kind of switch to this as a safety net, because you got the guard potential. You can use items on the go without having to sheath your weapon. It's easier to take advantage of the openings, especially with new monsters. Anyways, stats. Man, I want to see what Capcom does with these stat balancing because I'm curious. Because they said it was going to be a thing. You have two types of weapons, and we know, for example, I've had my quick sheath builds for longswords, but what if I want to use longsword and greatsword? How's the stats balancing going to work there? I think, you know, they might do something like, well, there are weapons that use the same stats. For example, here we have greatsword, the bow, and the hammer. They all use focus. So, having a set with focus or taking one specific stat could benefit. Or you might think, like, well, I could use different types of weapons that revolve around this stat. You know, very important. Now, flying monsters. This is exciting. Because before, for example, dual blade users, they'd be stuck on the ground when a Rathalos hits up in there. You're just looking up like, man, all right, time to sheath my weapons, start running. Not anymore, man. You can have your dual blades and a bow or a light bow gun, and you just start swinging at the monster up in there. Or get your insect glaive as well. Go up, take the fight to him. It's all super fun, man. And like, you're just going up there to mess him up in his territory. It's great. Next, sharpness. Kind of a joke, but let's say you have a Xenoger longsword, and it has a little tiny bit of purple sharpness. Well, now you could just make two of the same weapons, make two of the same Xenoger longsword, and you could, as soon as that purple sharpness goes away, just switch to the same old weapon. That could be a possibility too. It's kind of dumb, but hey, the option is there if you want to do it. Also, the possibility of doing two Wyvern fires. Oh my gosh. Imagine this. Your friend KOs the monster. You go ahead, you take your juicy Wyvern fire, and then you charge it up, boom, and you blast him, right? Now you can just grab back on your sacred, grab your other gun lance. You don't have to wait for the cooldown and just blast them again. Pretty cool, if you ask me. Now, here we have, I want to talk to you about some of the weapons as a secondary. Some weapons are good for secondaries, others not so much. I'm not saying that they're bad, but for example, light bow guns and most of the ranged weapons, they're good for applying status effects, right? You could apply sleep, you could apply paralysis, trank them, it's all good. But for example, when we talk about a weapon like the dual blades, you kind of got to build up this meter, use it a lot, and then you got to use the sub demon mode or hyper demon mode. It's more of a main weapon. Then again, you also got the great sword, for those sleep builds. It's also kind of like the main oomph of the build, if you ask me. I already talked about the the sword and shield. Instant glaive, also kind of a main weapon type of vibe because you gotta collect the insects, and it's kind of like you gotta do a lot of work to benefit from the damage. Hunting horn, perfect, I think, as a secondary because you could buff yourself, you could buff your team. You don't need someone to specifically be the hunting horn guy. Now anyone can be the hunting horn guy. I don't know if that makes it less special now because when you saw a hunting horn on your lobby, you were hyped. You're like, this is gonna be great. But now maybe not so much. Now anyone can be a hunting horn main or a hunting horn. Have a hunting horn and just buff people. Oh man. Now I can see the videos of Team Darkside, just having like 18 buffs on them while killing a monster from like four different hunting horns. Pretty cool. Hammer could be, a secondary weapon because of the KO possibility and potential. You grab onto them, you have maybe a slugger build-ish, and it's interesting KO because now you see some weapons like the sword and shield and even the great sword with a slap have some KO potential, but usually these weapons don't really, get a lot of benefit from it. Some of them might not even KO a monster in the whole hunt, even though they could. Well, now you can actually build up that KO meter a bit and then just hit him with a hammer and to get that KO. It's going to be pretty interesting because in the same hunt, you by yourself, technically, you could literally KO the monster, apply some effect like paralysis or sleep, like all in the same hunt, and then you still have your main weapon dealing damage. Lance, I think, could be, for example, in now that it's a new Monster Hunter game, when you see a new monster, might be nice, when it's a monster you don't know the moveset, you could use it defensively. Like, okay, let me go ahead, check him out, see what's up. Kind of use the lance there for the poking. Charge Blade as well. I think it's a good potential for a secondary because of the impact files and the elemental or the stat build up. Great. Charge Blade could be as well for the build up and the explosions. Everybody loves explosions. Gun lance, same as the lance, kind of to feel out a monster. And a, and a longsword, kind of feel it more of a main weapon, same as the dual blades because of the gauge build up. You usually build up to that gauge to get damage, and then you usually use your secondary kind of to do something with the damage you build up on the katana or that you're about to build up because he's KO'd and he's down and you can build up that damage. And this was my fast rundown of ideas. I'm excited to see the sleep bombing videos. Great sword sleep bombers. Having one guy with like oh, now that I think about it, dual blades do have a lot of stat capability. They apply stats really fast. But I can't wait to see those videos of Team Darkside having sleep dual blades and just those giant ass great swords. It's letting it down on the monster. It's gonna be great. Those are my ideas, man. Tell me if this kind of like clicked a spark in your brain that made you be like, man, this is actually a good idea. Like, this could also be a good combo, or you could do this with this weapon, and then you switch to this weapon. Please let me know, guys. And if you like this video, give me a like. And hey, if you want to check more stuff out, subscribe. See my next videos. Have fun, guys, and enjoy.